Here is a strange fact about the Dutch Shepherd. By most working dog standards, it's one of the most capable breeds ever produced. It herds, it guards, it pulls carts, it has the drive, nose, and trainability to work police, military, and search and rescue roles at the same level as the German Shepherd and Belgian Malinois. It's two much more famous cousins. And yet this dog came within a generation of disappearing entirely, not once, but twice, for reasons that had nothing to do with its ability and everything to do with the fact that almost nobody outside one small corner of Europe ever had a reason to want it. Competence, it turns out, was never the thing that determined whether this breed survived. Part of the answer lies in a decision made in 1898, when a group of Dutch farmers sat down to write a breed standard and, instead of celebrating what made their dogs special, wrote down a rule that seems designed to guarantee obscurity. The coat had to be brindle, not black, not solid fawn, not the sable that was already making German Shepherds famous across Europe. Brindle, that striped, smoky, almost camouflaged pattern that looks like a dog wearing a farmhouse shadow. And in doing so, those farmers accidentally condemned their breed to 2 centuries of being mistaken for everything except itself. To understand why that rule mattered, you have to go back further, to a dog that didn't have a name because it didn't need one. Across the sandy soils of Brabant, Gelderland, and Drenthe, farmers in the early 1800s kept a general-purpose shepherd that did whatever the farm required on a given day. In the morning, it might walk a flock of sheep along the boundary of unfenced fields, its entire job being to keep the animals from stepping onto a neighbor's crops. Since Dutch farms in this period had no fencing and relied entirely on a dog's judgment to enforce invisible property lines. By afternoon, the same dog might be pulling a small cart of milk or vegetables to market. By evening, it was patrolling the hen house for foxes, or lying across the barn floor as an alarm system. This wasn't a herding specialist in the way a border collie is a herding specialist. It was a utility animal, valued precisely because it could do 6 unrelated jobs without complaint. And nobody in the 19th century Dutch countryside was writing pedigrees for a dog they thought of as basic farm equipment. There wasn't even much consistency between regions. A farmer in Drenthe and a farmer in Brabant might both call their dog a herder. But the animals themselves varied in size, coat length, and build depending on local terrain and whatever dogs happened to be available for breeding in a given village. Type followed function, and function was decided locally, without any national body coordinating what a correct specimen should look like. The dog existed as a category of labor before it existed as a breed. That changed only because of pressure from outside. In the final decades of the 1800s, both Belgium and Germany began formalizing their own native shepherd breeds. The Belgian club organized in 1891. The German club followed in 1899, and both nations began standardizing coat structure and temperament into breeds with names, stud books, and national pride attached. The Dutch farmers watched this happen to dogs that were, biologically speaking, close cousins of their own. The 3 breeds descend from a shared regional gene pool of continental herding dogs that had been trading genetics across unmarked borders for generations. Suddenly, there was a real risk that the Dutch Shepherd would simply be absorbed, either formally reclassified as an off-color German Shepherd or a stray variant of the Belgian Malinois, and disappear as a distinct population without ever having existed on paper. So, when the Dutch Kennel Club formed in 1898, its founders weren't just writing a description of the dog in front of them. They were drawing a border, and the tool they had for drawing it was color. German Shepherds were moving towards solid sable and black and tan. Belgian Shepherds were splitting into their own coat-based varieties, but generally trending towards solid colors too. So the Dutch club looked at the brindle dogs already common in their farm population, a pattern that occurs naturally when a base fawn or grey coat carries the same striping gene found in Great Danes and Boxers, and made brindle the identifying mark of the breed. Not because brindle dogs herded better or worked harder, because brindle was rare enough among the neighboring shepherd breeds that nobody could mistake a Dutch shepherd for anything else. It was a defensive act of national dog fancy, executed through pigment. The irony is that this act of self-preservation is exactly what made the breed so easy to overlook for the following century. German Shepherds got a uniform, elegant silhouette that photographed beautifully and marketed itself effortlessly across the world through war service, police work, and Hollywood. Belgian Malinois got sleek athleticism and later an enormous reputation through military and protection work. The Dutch Shepherd got a coat pattern that frankly just wasn't as glamorous or easy on the eye as the other breeds of the time. Then came a threat that had nothing to do with marketing. Dutch agriculture mechanized rapidly through the early 20th century, and the herding work that had justified the breed's existence for 100 years began to vanish. Fields got fences, carts got replaced by trucks. The general-purpose farm dog, whose entire value proposition was doing several loosely defined jobs at once, found that most of those jobs no longer existed. This is the same mechanism that gutted dozens of regional working breeds across Europe in this era. World War II accelerated the collapse. Food shortages in the occupied Netherlands made keeping any dog that didn't earn its keep an active liability, and the Dutch Shepherd population, already thinned by mechanization, dropped to numbers that put the breed within genuine reach of disappearing entirely. Feeding a working dog through the winters of occupation meant diverting food that could otherwise go to a family, and litters went unregistered, as breeding programs that had only just stabilized after 1898 lost momentum precisely when they could least afford to. What saved the breed wasn't a wealthy patron or a royal kennel, the kind of rescue story that saved several British breeds in the same period. It was a small number of post-war Dutch breed enthusiasts who deliberately redirected the dog's purpose, pushing it toward police work, search and rescue, and competitive obedience sport, giving the breed a reason to exist that no longer depended on unfenced sheep fields. That redirection is why the Dutch Shepherd still exists today, mostly inside the Netherlands and Belgium, occasionally showing up in European police forces that value its combination of drive and biddability over the more famous working lines of German Shepherd or Malinois. It never became a global export because it never needed to be one. Its entire history is a study in a breed that was defined not by ambition but by boundary drawing. First against its own genetic cousins, then against the machine, then against a war economy with no room for a dog with no clear job.